This next demonstration is going to show us how to do some hand stitching. Specifically, we're going to do the stitch that's called the running stitch. And it's called running because it's something that you can do fairly fast by going in and out. And I have 2 layers of fabric here placed right side together. And I'm going to go ahead and put a marking down on my fabric just so I can keep that consistent line. So I'm measuring down 1 inch from the top. And I'm just going to use my tailor's chalk here, and I'm going to draw a line at 1 inch so I can follow that as I stitch. And then I'm going to put some pins in, just so that all my fabric is held together. Put a couple more in here, just so keep everything nice and tight while I stitch in case I have to pick that up. Alright. And again, you're going to use your hand sewing needle with one thread thickness, and so I ran out on my last hand stitch, so I got a pretty long one going here. Hopefully it won't cause me more problems. So what we're going to do, again, I'm going to work from right to left, but if you're left-handed you might want to work from left to right. And instead of doing like 1 stitch and then pull, we're going to take multiple. We're going to do 3 to 4 evenly spaced stitches along this this line that I drew with my tailor's chalk, in a back and forth type of weaving motion, and then pull the thread through. We want to try to keep these stitches as even as possible. So these are stitches that more likely would be more permanent. So what I did was I started at the bottom and just pulled my thread through the top so that my knot catches on the back side. And again, we want to keep these fairly evenly spaced, approximately 1/4 inch in length, and then just go back and forth. I'm doing that weaving type motion, back and forth right along my tailored chalk line. So I think I might have done 4 there, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just gently going to pull this through, and I want you to see how I'm holding this finger down over the top of where I'm pulling that fabric through. And sometimes when you have a long piece of thread like what I have, is that it wants to even kind of knot up, like create a knot and knot up on itself. And that's just a trick that I learned, is that if you hold that fabric down tight, then it's just going to less likely to kind of bunch up and give you some trouble. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that pin there. And I'm just going to keep repeating this step, this kind of in and out weaving motion, taking little bites, if you would call them bites, little bites of fabric, back and forth, no longer than 1/4 inch. And then after I get a couple of them, or a few, I'm just going to pull that through. I'm going to hold down where that thread's coming in and kind of catch him back up with us. Pull that tight. Alright, I'm just going to repeat that again. Back and forth, back and forth. Alright, and I did 2 there, but then I had to pull my pin out, so. Alright. Back and forth, this weaving type motion, no longer than 1/4 inch. I'm just taking little bites right out of that fabric. And I'm going to hold that down right where that fabric's going to be pulled through at. Alright, and then I'm just going to finish up here, a couple more. I'm going to finish on the top side of that pin. Pull that thread through. Alright, and then I'm just going to make a little knot here at the end, and this is what I find to be pretty helpful with knotting, is I just kind of take just a little tiny pinch of fabric, and then I come back through with my needle and then pull that tight. And then I push my fingernail right over where I want that knot to be, and then just pull my needle with my right hand farther away, and that just tightens it right up. And then I can trim that tail. Alright, and this again is the running stitch. Make sure that you label this and put this in your sewing pack. Again, the running stitches are a very short stitch, they're very even, and they're typically used for fine seaming, putting in tucks, mending, gathering, and just other sort of sewing that may require a delicate touch, so more control than those long basting stitches. So like that's for fine, meaning that you really need to hold the shape and not use those long basting stitches. Even though the running stitch it's very much like an even basting stitch, except for that the stitches are much smaller and usually permanent. We usually won't take these out if we're doing sort of any sort of mending or fine delicate work. So you can see that even if I were going to go and press this open, it's going to keep that seam line very nice, very straight, and intact. It's pretty strong if I give it a good tug. So that's your running stitch.